All right, let's get back to some politics. And while everybody's obviously talking about and fixated on the presidential race, there are also elections, as we know, this fall that will decide the control of the Senate and even possibly the House. And you got some races in our region that could help swing it either way here. And in the Senate, what had seemed like a Republican advantage to win control, they're down a couple seats now, and the betting money was at least 50-50. They get the Senate back. It now seems at least stuck in neutral, let's say. They could even lose a seat potentially. According to Real Clear Politics, just 6 races will determine the majority. And on the House side, things seem to be a lot more stable for the GOP. Real Clear estimates that the Republicans will keep control, though changes in just a couple of the races could also put at least that margin in jeopardy. And as we focus in our region, we're going to start off in the House and a race on Long Island that was a dead heat just 2 years ago. It is the 1st district in Suffolk, and you got incumbent Democrat Tim Bishop with a 13-point lead over challenger Randy Altshuler in Siena's latest poll. This race between the same 2 guys that went to a recount, as you remember, back in 2010. Andrew?
Well, you would expect this race to tighten up as it gets closer to Election Day. It certainly did last year, or I'm sorry, 2 years ago. And we know that Crossroads GPS, and we know that a bunch of outside organizations are starting to pump money into this race. We know the DCCC is there on behalf of Tim Bishop, and Randy Altshuler is getting outside money, as I mentioned, from Karl Rove and Crossroads and other groups like that. The one difference in this race from 2 years ago is that the district is bigger because of redistricting, and it may include more Democrats than it had in the past. But I would expect to see those numbers tighten significantly between now and election day.
And you know, Jeanne, you just imagine what would happen for some of these Republican candidates in these tough districts if they just had more help. Forget top of the tick with the presidential, but like in the Senate race. We'll have Wendy Long here tomorrow, but we've seen the margins of the polls with her and Kirsten Gillibrand. It's really tough for the casual voter to go in there and then not go party line, to go, it takes a lot, and it makes it that much harder, I think, for Republicans where they've had so many blowouts, at least on the top of the ticket level and statewide. All right, only one congressional race in New York City that thought to be played, and that's in the 11th district, covering Staten Island and also a slice of Brooklyn. Incumbent freshman Republican Michael Grimm, he's got a 15-point lead over Democrat Mark Murphy. In the latest poll, Murphy says it's good news because Grimm, he's below 50%. I guess that's how you read it. Grimm, he's also being investigated by the feds for questionable fundraising. Dominic, he's still the leader in the clubhouse at this point, but it's not as safe as it was a few months ago.
You know, we were discussing this earlier in terms of Chris Christie over that 50%. That's the magical number. And when you're below that 50% threshold as the incumbent, that means you're vulnerable. The good news for Grimm in this district, this is the same conservative district, that if they had the opportunity, they would have re-elected Vito Fossella. So it's a conservative Republican district. Grimm, in all likelihood, will probably win.
Everybody's favorite family man. Vito
Yes.
Jeanne, any one other race we're not talking about in our region that you're going to be keeping an eye on?
Well, I love the Connecticut Senate race. Linda McMahon, I just was with somebody who lives in Connecticut and who said it is painful to live there with the amount of paraphernalia they are getting on a daily basis. They're talking like 5-7 flyers a day in their homes, the media, and you know, her challenger says he just can't compete with it. I think that's going to be an interesting race. And then, of course, not in our region, but the Massachusetts Senate race is my favorite.
And Andrew's.
Because I have a bet with Andrew. But
And Andrew's girlfriend, exactly. All right.
he loves her.
We'll be right back. Everybody stay with us.